Good morning, Providence. I bring your greetings and love on behalf of my family to my church family as I am grateful to God to share this message from Dr. King this morning. Travel with me back into time to Thursday, March 25th in the year 1965 after the completion of the historic march from Selma to Montgomery, Alabama. Join me on the steps of the state capitol of Montgomery, Alabama, where our leader, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., ministered these words to a nation. My dear and abiding friends, Ralph Abernathy, and to all of the distinguished Americans seated here on the rostrum, my friends and co-workers of the state of Alabama, and to all of the freedom-loving people who have assembled here this afternoon from all of our nation and all over this world. Last Sunday, more than 8,000 of us started on a mighty walk from Selma, Alabama. We have walked through desolate valleys across the trying hills. We have walked on meandering highways and rested our bodies on rocky byways. Some of our faces are burned from the outpourings of the sweltering sun. Some have literally slept in the mud. We have been drenched by the rains. Our bodies are tired and our feet are somewhat sore. But today, as I stand before you and think back over that great march, I can say, as Sister Pollard said, a 70-year-old Negro woman who lived in this community during the bus boycott, and one day she was asked while walking if she didn't want to ride. And she answered, no. The person said, well, aren't you tired? And with her ungrammatical profundity, she said, my feet is tired, but my soul is rested. And in a real sense this afternoon, we can say that our feet are tired, but our souls are rested. They told us we wouldn't get here. And there were those who said that we would only get here over their dead bodies, but after the world knows that we are here and we are standing before the forces of power in the state of Alabama saying, we ain't gonna let nobody turn us around. Now, it is not an accident that one of the great marches of American history should terminate in Montgomery, Alabama. Just 10 years ago, in this very city, a new philosophy was born of the Negro struggle. Montgomery was the first city in the South in which the entire Negro community united and squarely faced its age-old oppressors. Out of this struggle, more than the bus desegregation was won. A new idea, more powerful than guns or clubs, was born. Negroes took it and carried it across the South in epic battles that electrified the nation across the world. Yet, strangely, the climactic conflicts always were fought and won on Alabama soil. After Montgomery's heroic confrontations loomed up in Mississippi, Arkansas, Georgia, and elsewhere, but not until the colossus of segregation was challenged in Birmingham did the conscience of America begin to bleed. White America was profoundly aroused by Birmingham because it witnessed the whole community of Negroes facing terror and brutality with majestic scorn and heroic courage. And from the wells of this democratic spirit, the nation finally forced Congress to write legislation in the hope that it would eradicate the stain of Birmingham. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 gave Negroes some part of their rightful dignity, but without the vote, it was dignity without strength. Once more, the method of nonviolent resistance was unsheathed from its scabbard, and once again, an entire community was mobilized to confront the adversary. And again, the brutality of a dying order shrieks across the land. Yet Selma, Alabama became a shining moment in the conscience of man. If the worst in American life lurked in its dark streets, the best of American instincts arose passionately from across the nation to overcome it. There never was a moment in American history more honorable and more inspiring than the pilgrimage of clergymen and laymen of every race and faith pouring into Selma to face danger at the side of its embattled Negroes. The confrontation of good and evil, compressed in the tiny community of Selma, generated the massive power to turn a whole nation into a whole new course. A president born in the South had the sensitivity to feel the will of the country, and in an address that will live in history as one of the most passionate pleas for human rights ever made by a president for our nation, he pledged that the might of the federal government to cast off the centuries-old blight. President Johnson rightly praised the courage of the Negro for awakening the conscience of the nation. On our part, we must pay our profound respects to the white Americans who cherish their democratic traditions over the ugly customs and privileges of generations and come forth and boldly join hands with us. From Montgomery to Birmingham, from Birmingham to Selma, from Selma back to Montgomery, a trail wound in a circle long and often bloody, yet it has become a highway up from the darkness. Alabama has tried to nurture and defend evil, but evil is choking to death in the dusty roads of the streets of the state. So I stand before you this afternoon with the conviction that segregation is on its deathbed in Alabama, and the only thing certain about it is how costly the segregationists and Wallace will make the funeral. If it may be said of the slavery era that the white man took the world and gave the Negro Jesus, then it may be said of the Reconstruction era that the Southern aristocracy took the world and gave the poor white man Jim Crow. He gave him Jim Crow. And when his wrinkled stomach cried out for the food that his empty pockets could not provide, he ate Jim Crow, a psychological bird that told him that no matter how bad off he was, at least he was a white man, better than the black man. And he ate Jim Crow. And when his undernourished children cried out for the necessities that his low wages could not provide, he showed them the Jim Crow signs on the buses and in the stores and in the streets and in the public buildings. And his children, too, learned to feed upon Jim Crow, their last outpost of psychological oblivion. We've come a long way since that travesty of justice was perpetrated upon the American mind. James Weldon Johnson put it eloquently. He said, "We have come over a way that with tears has been watered. We have come treading our paths through the blood of the slaughtered, out of the gloomy past, till now we stand at last where the white gleam of our bright star is cast." Today I want to tell the city of Selma, today I want to say the state of Alabama, today I want to say the people of America and the nations of the world that we are not about to turn around. We are on the move now. Yes, we are on the move, and no wave of racism can stop us. We are on the move now. The burning of our churches will not deter us. The bombing of our homes will not dissuade us. We are on the move now. The beating and killing of our clergymen and young people will not divert us. We are on the move now. The wanton release of their known murderers will not discourage us. We are on the move now. Like an idea whose time has come, not even the marching of mighty armies can halt us. We are moving to the land of freedom. Let us march on ballot boxes until brotherhood becomes more than a meaningless word in an opening prayer, but the order of the day on every legislative agenda. There is nothing wrong with marching in this sense. The Bible tells us that the mighty men of Joshua merely walked about the city of Jericho, and the barriers to freedom came tumbling down. I like that old Negro spiritual, Joshua Fit the Battle of Jericho. In its simple yet colorful depiction of the great moment in biblical history, it tells us that Joshua fit the battle of Jericho, Joshua fit the battle of Jericho, and the walls come tumbling down. The battle is in our hands, and we can answer with creative nonviolence to call to higher ground to which the directions of our struggle summons us. The road ahead is altogether not a smooth one. There are no broad highways that lead us easily and inevitably to quick solutions, but we must keep going. In the glow of the lamplight on my desk a few nights ago, I gazed upon the wondrous sign of our times, full of hope and promise for the future. And I smiled to see in the newspaper photographs of many a decade ago the faces so bright, so solemn of our valiant heroes, the people of Montgomery. To this list may be added the names of all those who have fought, and yes, died in the nonviolent army of our day. Medgar Evers, 3 civil rights workers in Mississippi last summer, William Moore, as he has already been mentioned, the Reverend James Reeb, Jimmy Lee Jackson, and 4 little girls in the Church of God in Birmingham on Sunday morning. But in spite of this, we must go on and be sure that they did not die in vain. The pattern of their feet as they walk through Jim Crow barriers in the great stride toward freedom is the thunder of marching men of Joshua, and the world rocks beneath their tread. My people, listen. The battle is in our hands. The battle is in our hands in Mississippi and Alabama and all over the United States. I know there is a cry today in Alabama. We see it in numerous editorials. When will Martin Luther King, SCOC, SNCC, and all of these civil rights agitators and all of the white clergymen and labor leaders and students and others get out of our community and let Alabama return to normalcy? But I have a message that I would like to leave with Alabama this evening. This is exactly what we don't want, and we will not allow it to happen, for we know that it was normalcy in Marion that led to the brutal murder of Jimmy Lee Jackson. It was normalcy in Birmingham that led to the murder on Sunday morning of 4 beautiful, unoffending, innocent girls. It was normalcy on Highway 80 that led to state troopers to use tear gas and horses and billy clubs against unarmed human beings who were simply marching for justice. It was normalcy by a cafe in Selma, Alabama that led to the brutal beating of Reverend James Reeb. It is normalcy all over our country which leaves the Negro perishing on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. It's normalcy all over Alabama that prevents the Negro from becoming a registered voter. No, we will not allow Alabama to return to normalcy. The only normalcy that we will settle for is the normalcy that recognizes the dignity and the worth of all God's children. The only normalcy that we will settle for is the normalcy that allows judgment to run down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. The only normalcy that we will settle for is the normalcy of brotherhood, the normalcy of true peace, and the normalcy of justice. And so as we go away this afternoon, let us go away more than ever before, committed to the struggle and committed to nonviolence. I must admit to you that there are still some difficult days ahead. We are still in for a season of suffering in many of the Black Belt counties of Alabama, many areas of Mississippi, many areas of Louisiana. I admit to you that there are still jail cells waiting for us and still dark and difficult moments. But if we will go on with the faith that nonviolence and its power can transform dark yesterdays into bright tomorrows, we will be able to change all of these conditions. And so I plead with you this afternoon as we go ahead, remain committed to nonviolence. Our aim must never be to defeat or humiliate the white man, but to win his friendship and understanding. We must come to see that the end we seek is a society at peace with itself, a society that can live with its conscience. And that will be a day not of the white man, not of the black man. That will be a day of man as man. I know you're asking today, how long will it take? Somebody's asking, how long will prejudice blind the visions of men, darken their understanding, and drive bright-eyed wisdom from her sacred throne? Somebody's asking, when will wounded justice lying prostrate on the streets of Selma and Alabama and Birmingham and communities all over the South be lifted in dust from the shame to reign supreme among the children of men? Somebody's asking, when will the radiant star of hope be plunged against the nocturnal bosom of this lonely night, plucked from weary souls with chains of fear and the manacles of death? How long will justice be crucified and truth bear it? I come to say to you this afternoon, however difficult the moment, however frustrating the hour, it will not be long, because truth, crushed to earth, will rise again. How long? Not long, because no lie can live forever. How long? Not long, because you shall reap what you sow. How long? Not long. Truth forever on the scaffold, wrong forever on the throne, yet that scaffold sways the future, and behind the dim unknown standeth God within the shadow, keeping watch above his own. How long? Not long, because the arc of moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. How long? Not long, because mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming Lord. He is trampling out the vintage where the grapes of wrath are stored. He has loosed the fateful lightning of his terrible swift sword. His truth is marching on. He has sounded forth the trumpet that shall never call retreat. He is sifting out the hearts of men before his judgment seat. Oh, be swift, my soul, to answer him. Be jubilant, my feet. Our God is marching on. Glory, hallelujah, glory, hallelujah. Glory, hallelujah, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on.
Glory.